12. Motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Motion approved.
All right. We are here to discuss and come up with a plan moving forward for this stadium.
Chairman, now as I can tell you, you're gonna have to speak up, because I've got a sinus infection, both ears are stopped up, so I've been to the doctor 2 days.
And no exciting
So my mic on.
I cannot, they are stopped up back. So I'll not hear a word.
My mic is good.
Hold on, we have turned it on. Your battery dead?
Yeah.
You should drop it in water.
All right, we're here to discuss the Big Oak Stadium and what we're going to do moving forward as far as funding. I thought it would be best to get both boards in the same room to have this discussion. I'd like for Mr. Marino, if you would, to give us an update on kind of where we're at currently. And then, Ms. Knight, I'll give you the floor to say whatever you want to say.
So basically where we're sitting waiting to get work with the design team who basically was the one that provided their, we had to break out of the design it's going to take to get several different options going forward. Some we can reduce the cost, which is good at the end of the day. And they're just waiting, standing by, and ready to go forward with getting the design. That's basically where we are with the design firm. And then from there, we should be able to get pretty solid amount of money what it's going to take to do the final construction for the permanent seat, which we will just had to remove the temporary seating. So that's basically where we are with waiting to get design started so we can move forward. We'll know more about total costs and timelines once the design starts and gets probably about 60 to 70% in.
And that cost for design is $158,000, right?
That's correct.
Do what now? How much?
$158,000.
58.6. There are some options like the survey. We already had a lot of surveying done. We may be able to reduce the total cost by maybe around 10,000 potentially to around the 148. But we'll have to work that out with the contract or the engineer once we start negotiating.
So we need to at least decide on design, on funding the design. If we don't have the design, we can't move forward at all. We're stuck in the mud. So, you got anything you want to add to it right now?
No, I think that Mr. Marino actually summed it up pretty well. We do need to move forward. Our board chose went with the Scott Donald's firm in November. So he's awaiting word from us to go forward. Of course, there again, we've got to decide who's going to pay for that. So options for us at this point are unknown until we get further along in the process, but some options that are on the table are, it takes about a year, potentially, sometimes, to fabricate these new bleachers. So you may be in the same position you were in last year, in that you may have to have temporary bleachers again. We're 8 months out from needing them. It would be wonderful if we had the design completed and everything ready for brand new bleachers to be there and them fabricated and put on the spot. So regardless of whether or not the brand new permanent bleachers are there, we need to go forward with finishing the site. This is where Jason can probably give more details than me, but that would include, because there will be permanent bleachers, that will be a concrete pad, finishing the egress on each side, and the completion of the whole surrounding unit, which would make it compliant with North Carolina Department of Public Instruction standards. So, Mr. Graham, anything you want to add from your perspective of that?
No, you covered that very well. I've got a handout here. If you're ready for me to give this out on funds that we have at this time, unless there's more discussion.
Let's go ahead and look at it.
This is an email, this is an excerpt from an email that I sent to Stacy Carpenter. And if you would please just share that. Figures I want you to look at are probably 2/3 down the way on this email. We've already seen this. Approximately. We mentioned this before this project started, that, you know, we have capital needs ourselves, that we're trying to save the funds for. We have a capital
Here,
It does.
counting down.
As you'll see, there's another set of list of funds there. These are called the repair and renovation funds. This is a result of new legislation. And those funds are really restricted for repairs and enhancements to classroom facilities. There's not a big need to discuss those, but I want to give you a list of how those funds can be expended. You'll see there in the center of this printout, there's a list of 6 items there on how we can spend those funds. And unfortunately, we can't use a lot of funds for the expenditures for a football stadium. They are restricted for I'll read the first one, enlargement or expansion of classroom facilities. So that's how those funds are restricted. So we can't use that pot of money for this project, unfortunately. So that's a quick explanation of the funds that we have available.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, I want to go back to design. When we're talking about design, how different a look are we looking at this stadium over here? When we're talking about
So
is the retaining wall going to change?
the intent, talking to Scott and everything that we've gotten the feedback from everybody that's that sat in the ball field and watched the games is, the intent is we actually gained room in front of the concession stand, which was a positive. And so the intent would be the back wall never touches that again, because again, that we're talking extensive more construction, which would raise considerably the amount of money it's going to take to redo the site. However, we do anticipate with a new design to get better view and a better line of sight to the stadium, that lower wall would reduce some. Now, moving it in and out, don't foresee that, but we would like to, talking to the school, the people, lower that front edge. We can build, with the aluminum seating that we're looking at doing, we can custom build to any kind of levels that we come up with what's currently there sitting now. So the long term would be a better line of sight, probably still the amount of seating you need, maybe more, wider seating, make it a little bit better way to get up and down and sit, a little more room, and improve down to the football field, access to and from. Obviously, there's some other things we've talked about, maybe designing a wall. Yes, yeah, access from the back, where you can go straight up the aisles and go straight to the concession stand at the top, access to the field from the front, lowering the cheerleading stand to getting it a little bit closer to field level, but also not reduce the line of sight from that end of the stadium. Those are some improvements that we would get. And again, I anticipate being able to utilize a lot of 3D efforts and visual aspects during the design phase that the school would be able, and the board would be able to see the changes current to what would be an improvement to the new design going forward. That's what I anticipate. And they're used to LS3P, who Scott Donald's firm is now. They've done these types of projects before, so that I'm pretty sure they'd be able to elaborate on a lot of the different things that would look better and work better functionality-wise for the stadium.
Maybe the one
going
to
forward.
provide the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Design plans and walkthroughs, might be able to do
Well,
virtual
was the
walkthroughs.
complaint only because you could see the field? The complaint was they couldn't see the players and the coaches, correct?
That's correct, and some of the field actually, once you could get like towards the cheerleading stand, they would go out of view towards the
Oh, I
side.
realize that,
Yeah,
but if you
yeah.
lower that cheerleading stand down so far and you don't lower the seating down, then the cheerleaders are detached from the fans.
Well, I
And-
think there still would be detached, it would just lower like with the front would lower. It would be lower in the beginning of the corner, kind of like it was before.
Because it was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Because there was about this much room for folks to walk.
Yeah,
And they were getting on the cheerleading stand because the cheerleading stand was not the size of the one that was torn down.
correct.
And no one came to the cheerleading coach and asked for, because I asked about this, because I knew it didn't look as big, asked about dimensions, because the dimensions were terrible for as many cheerleaders as they had. And so they're looking at lowering the cheerleading staff if they don't do something about that. And then our band was crowded in there, also taking up seating space, which your band needs to be with your cheerleaders, for sure.
I think everything that you mentioned can be addressed in the new phase, absolutely. Take into consideration the sizes that's needed, the levels, and we'll be able to adjust that elevation-wise, and you'll be able to look at that on paper and maybe even video before anything's approved and starts going out to contracts. So that design phase is going to be the important part of getting what you really want and need.
So
Usability.
you'll be able to actually look at pictures of what it's going to be.
Oh, yes, I understand
Visual,
that.
yeah.
But I mean,
And
those retaining walls are relatively expensive, correct?
They absolutely can be. yeah.
Yes, so if we have to remove that one, then that's gonna be a big expense, correct?
There'll be some costs incurred for sure. And I think at the end of the day, and it's hard to say, but I'd venture to say we want to probably do that anyway, just to help with the visual from what we're hearing from the audience and people that were there and went to it, but also to help with the cheerleader part of it. So even though it's going to incur cost, it's going to be a better long-term fit and fix for what you're going to see, long-term for playing football here at Big Oak Stadium. at the end of the day.
Well, I know, and I would like to see all those entities involved, not involved in the decision-making, but at least say, is this kind of what we need from the band director to the cheerleading coach to the coaches?
Absolutely.
To say, this is what, and like Ms. Orr said, that's what, we'll see a final design, correct?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
You can include the security aspect as well.
Mhm.
The officer needs to get to the field quickly. He can't
There
do
was
that.
no way, not with this one.
Yeah, they'll have that, the ADA will be addressed, you'll be able to see that, proximities from each area to the restrooms, facilities, that'll all be addressed during this as well, security, all of that. And egress, ingress for even the ambulance, all those different things will be addressed during this design phase.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any idea how long the design might take before we can actually get something out to bid?
Say that again, I'm
Do we
sorry.
have any idea on how long the design might take?
Well, we didn't really get a total amount. I do know that they were going to be working with us to try to get August done in August. I'm like Miss Angie, that we probably aren't going to hit that mark like we thought we would. But I would say easily we should be able to have some design, maybe even looking out to bid by spring. You know, it's a good possibility to do that. I think at the end of the day, there's a couple of options. The way to look at it would be, obviously, the perfect storm would be have it in by August, everything done. In order to even get the site prepared, even for rental or a new set, we'd had to move the temporary set out and to be able to do the work. So say maybe the worst case scenario, we would have everything ready for a new set and it's still in manufacturing state, and have the site ready for a temporary, put the temporary back in, and then they come and get them again in December, depending on how the season goes. Then the permanent would be ready to go in by, say, the end of December or whatever, spring, and by the next year, we'd have the permanent set in and everything would be fixed and ready to rock and roll. We just have to wait
What
and
was the
see.
cost of this temporary?
$77,000, I think, was the cost to bring them in, set them up, and then take them out.
And that's pretty much what we'll be looking at in another temporary
Potentially.
set.
Potentially, yeah. It's hard to say for sure, but yeah, that would be, in the worst case scenario, if we can't get them under manufactured and in on a site that's been already built by August, that would be the next option to look at.
When can you put in for permanent once you get, when can you put in for permanent once you get a site ready?
Once you as a board and the school approve the final design plans, and you send it out and you get bids on, they'll probably, in my assumption, working with this, they'll want to bid that permanent seating site out. As soon as you get those bids and award a contractor, they can put those into production right away. Okay. So they can be building those even before the site even starts, because they're going to be building to design plans anyway. And that's the good part about that. The problem is, it's sounding like that type of material and construction is long lead times to get built. And that's just part of the industry anyway. So that's the reason why she was talking about could be a year or whatever to get those put in place. So
Okay.
we'll just have to wait and see on timelines.
I know you said it would be impossible to know the total cost till it's about 50-60% done, but do we have any ballpark?
I've run some numbers. I provided on the capital outlay to the Board of Commissioners just to look at our projects going forward in case. And it could be upwards of $750,000, $750,000 potentially. And the reason why we came up with that number was just looking at I think talking to the school, some of the temporary bleachers or the bleachers you bought over here for the visitor side was around $300,000 for that project. And so we're looking at twice the seating. So yeah, it could be total, and when we say that, we're talking about, when I put that number out there, it's basically for a completed project, right? It's ADA, landscaping, retaining walls, seating, permanent seating, the whole 9 yards, complete project. So I just kind of threw a number out there, trying to go off of what we've been dealing with the visitor side and permanent what we've been putting in on the other side.
Is there any other questions? All right, we need to-
Chairman, now, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Jason, I'm just curious, if we start this process and we go ahead and try to get the pads poured, if we lower that front wall by 1 or 2 blocks, whatever we do to get the line of sight, that means we're gonna have to pour 2 pads. Is that correct?
Potentially.
So if that's the case, are we sure that we can get temporary bleachers that can be brought in and to fit that, it being on two different levels, because most of the temporary bleachers I've ever seen are on a flat surface, and this would be stepped up. So that's something that we were gonna need to consider before we start moving those blocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if we can talk to that company or not, I'm just curious.
Yeah, talking to the company, it's a great question, talking to the company, I felt confident, and again, to say for sure, until we start this process and go back to them and show them what we're building, it's not anything I can be for sure of at all, but talking to them, they can build just about anything.
Okay.
Now, going back to what it would cost, when we said $77,000, when we're talking about a different customized fit, might be a little bit more. And hopefully that answers your question. It's just hard to know right now until we get an elevation design as to what we need that stadium and line of sight to look at going forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, well, we need to have this discussion of funding. Personally, I'm of the camp that the county uses the football field and the facilities. Our youth programs use it, and they take advantage of it. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team. I know money's tight on both ends right now. I know it is. Nobody likes to see something like this happen, and you have to expend a bunch of money you wasn't ready for. If anybody has any ideas, any funding sources, we've got sales tax money that goes to the school annually. We've done a budget analysis on that. We can fund this project through that. Personally, I think that that's just using the school's money completely to fund the school's project. And this board can have discussion during our budget to either allocate money to that or not. But we have done an analysis, and we can fund this project with that sales tax money. But at the end of the day, it's a board decision, and we do need to have this conversation, because the longer we wait, the more problems we're gonna have.
You say you can fund it with that?
That's what the $1 million estimate.
Jacob, this is Stacy Carpenter.
I was hoping he was on the phone.
I'm here, and I talked to Davenport, our financial advisors, earlier today. Mitch, that was there, presented our analysis to you earlier this year. I got some guidance from him. He said basically that we can fund the project out of our county capital reserve. So we would have to adopt a reimbursement resolution that would allow us to finance the stadium at a later date with tax-exempt financing. And we could reimburse ourselves for any cash capital outlay for the stadium at that time. So this is basically the strategy that Mitch had mentioned to y'all when he presented the capital funding analysis. And it would allow us to have to avoid any type of financing for the stadium right now. And it would allow us to do the financing for the courthouse and the stadium concurrently.
Right.
So basically, what we would have to do is we would have to look at how much of the school capital reserve is collected through the sales tax, and we can reimburse the county capital reserve with those funds until such time as those monies are recouped to put back into the capital reserve.
Okay. Everybody get that?
Does that make sense?
You may have to tell it a little bit.
Did everybody hear? Yes, I did hear.
Well, I'm just not hearing well.
So basically, we do a resolution to back finance ourselves when we do our large project with the courthouse, and we pay for it through our capital projects fund.
And not use the sales tax.
But that would be part of our reimbursement over time, to pull that money back in.
Reimbursement over time.
To pull that money back in. But that's over time, and the board can have that discussion at budget time, whether or not we, pull them out, or if we feel obligated to pay some from tax dollars or whatever. That's a conversation that can be had.
And I think that's what Stacy was explaining explaining how that would work. I'm sorry you couldn't hear that. Pam, I barely hear it here. Stacy, would you go over just the last part of that, the back financing after talking to Davenport?
Yes.
And speak just a little bit louder? Would you like to come and stand over by the phone, Pam? So you
Well,
can
maybe
hear
I
that?
can.
Maybe you can.
If I can say my ears are pretty soft.
Maybe you can hear that.
That was my fault.
Hi, this is Stacy. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So basically the bottom line of the conversations with Davenport is that the school sales tax reserve fund would basically just considerably freeze them until such time as the project is fully financed. And so we would try the funds out of our county capital reserve, and then we would hold those school sales tax reserve funds until that the reserve has been reimbursed. Does that make sense?
So, do you have any questions? Go ahead.
No, I understand that now. I got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Does anybody else have a question you want to ask Stacy while we're talking really loudly? Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
So that is an option.
I do have one question. So Stacy, this is for you, this is Angie. What is the estimated, I know it changes, but what's the average sales tax reimbursement annually now? That would be the school's portion?
Give me just a second, let me look here.
Okay.
The restricted sales tax for school debt. Okay, the restricted sales tax for school debt is estimated, and this is just the estimate of $531,500.
So it would be paid off in a couple of years.
Yeah.
We're fortunate that the school bond and QZAP pay received recently.
Yeah.
Very.
They have quite a bit.
Thank you, Lord, for that timing. Thank you, Stacy. Any other questions for Stacy?
All right. So that's one option. Does anybody else want another option on the table?
I think we, as a board, need to adopt a resolution to commit those funds for that, out of restriction, to be able to make sure that those funds are there and everything.
So after talking with Davenport, he said that we would have to get the reimbursement resolution has to be put into place within 60 days. So we either need to get it together before our meeting on the 19th or on the meeting in January. We need to have that prepared to adopt.
We've got time to do that, time we get the design,
We've got 60 days.
each would have a sample of the resolution he supplies us. All we'd have to do is plug in the numbers.
Do we have to have a hard number, Stacy, or can we do this without knowing?
It has to be concrete numbers, so we would have to have our reimbursement resolution based on concrete numbers.
So we've still got his fund, this 158. And is there any way there's no way we can have design in the bid in 60 days?
Not from this point.
No.
And I highly recommend if we're gonna go with design, we need to let them know tomorrow and try to get going as soon as possible.
So this 150, this design funding is going to be something separate and apart.
We could do a resolution for the 158,
Okay.
and then we could, and then we would have to do it, another one, or an amended one,
Right.
once we have the final design.
Okay.
Could we talk to the state and ask if we could take and have a plus or minus?
I don't mind to reach out and see what they will allow us to do, for sure.
Because I think we could be able to talk to them and be able to explain the situation to where we could ask for a certain amount and then just have verbiage to stating that could be plus or minus with their approval.
I will reach out first thing tomorrow and see how they will allow us to set up a resolution, a reimbursement resolution.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion?
All around, this is probably a 2-year project, you'd say,
Year and a half,
year and a half.
I would say. From now.
Because you possibly could be looking at raining bleachers again in August. Then rip them back out in December. Then hopefully by the year after, we'll have a permanent ready.
It'd be good if we could put some pressure on the design team to where if they did it, then that way they could put these things in production and toss it in, have them ready to.
We can hope for the best.
I think because you're going with the same people that have been involved in the past, that there is a stronger chance of them being done quicker because they're already familiar with it. We've already got the surveys and so I think we do have a little bit of, maybe a little bit of ahead in that area.
Could we ask them to prioritize us?
And everybody else probably would like to have a priority, you know.
We can ask.
We can ask.
I don't think they say no. All right, well, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve this 158.6 for design. Does this motion need to be phrased in a certain way to include a reimbursement resolution?
Yeah, I could put the words, if that's what you want to do, as we've discussed. And then I could put the verbiage in tomorrow.
Back funding.
Does anybody on this board want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to go ahead and accept the 158 for the design, and then also to approve for the resolution for the construction.
And the back financing, and I'll second the motion.
All in favor? All right.
And if I might, Angie or anyone, just looking forward, is there anything on the radar that might not be a red flag today, but we might be looking at a caution flag on any level that you could apprise us of, so we could maybe be on guard along with you all?
So you're asking for the things that keep Lester and myself up at night?
Yes, and I'm going to stay up with you.
So right now, I think the biggest thing on our radar is as the county and everybody in the country is coming off of the COVID funding, we do have some pretty vital positions that are tied up in that funding that we're trying to figure out how to absorb. I will say that we held out great hope that we would get an increase in our small schools allotment from the state. It hasn't been increased since
2008.
2008. We did not get that increase, and that was where we had held out hope to move some of these positions too. So I would like to maybe, I'll be glad to, once we look at budget for next year, sit down and share where we are with this, because there are some vital positions in there that I feel like that really benefit the school system and the students, and would be important for you to be aware of.
Is there a possibility to appeal the denial of those funds?
No, because it's COVID money and it's ending. There's just no money, it's to the end of that grant cycle.
All right, is there anything else before we adjourn?
I don't know if my board would want to say anything, but I just want to tell you how much we appreciate on behalf of Graham County Schools, we appreciate the collaborative relationship that we have with the board. And it's important for us, like you said, we're all on the same team here. We share facilities with the community, and our kids are our kids, whether it's Saturday or Friday night or whatever. So we do appreciate your working relationship with us.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate, Jeff, what you said. Open up. I mean, it's a team effort. We're in this together. And y'all use the fields, certainly the school does, and we gotta have y'all's help. You heard, Lester, correct me on my numbers, but our fund balance, $16,000 that the auditor shared with us at our last meeting. Basically, we have no fund balance.
That's correct. What fund balance we have is, it's related to Medicaid reimbursements, and those funds are restricted for use or for purpose. So, we're at the point where the revenues we bring in are very, very equal to the expenditures. The expenditures are going out. We're basically breaking even. So, and it's, the budgets are more difficult when your revenues and your expenditures are that close. It's a lot of work, to make a budget like that, work each year. But at least we're breaking even. There were several years there where we used fund balance. And a lot of that's from these mandated increases that come down from the legislature. So some of those are partially funded and some are unfunded, but we're making it work.
Yeah, thanks for being easy to work with.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.